today we can have an idea how Mr. M.K. Singh has developed a unique institution wherein at least a profession, legal profession, is getting height of it. Earlier, there has been time when the legal profession was not taken so seriously. But with the advent of the time and with the advent of the need of the things, now it has become essential that professional touch is required to be given to the law profession as well. Law profession, earlier it used to be a profession when people were not taking this seriously. Law, to my mind, and with all respect to all our earlier lawyers, this was a kind of profession when people did not get any kind of profession to have it. I am not casting aspersions and I am not blaming anything, but that used to be the things when earlier time it used to be adopted only as a last resource. But with the advent of time and with the need, it developed into a very good profession and as good as engineering or medical or even chartered accountants or any other kind of profession. Professionalism was required to be adopted in legal profession as well. Why it was needed? Because there are so many aspects of it. Legal profession necessarily required some kind of discipline, one, some kind of experience and moderations in it. So what Mr. M.K. Singh has started with the institute is imparting coaching for people initially to join judicial services. Judicial services has given in modern days an opportunity to have a service and judicial service like any other professional services. Judicial services is a prestigious one which considers very large part of society, and especially when the people are losing faith in any kind of thing or any kind of system, people at least go to the law courts so that they can get justice, at least so-called justice what we have today. But that necessarily requires an attention by the persons who deal in it. So for that particular thing, a necessary efforts were taken, and one of them happened to be Mr. M.K. Singh, who has taken all effort so that he can develop, and he has already developed lot of characteristic in it which are being put so that he could have inculcated those aspects to have a good judiciary and good judicial officers. So far I am informed he has by this time got appointed higher judicial services, then public prosecutors, then judicial we should not call it the lower judiciary but first stage of judicial system wherein judicial magistrates and civil judges are appointed. With this background, he started and he tried to inculcate those aspects initially, and he succeeded in it. He, by this time on record, he has so many persons who have been appointed in higher judicial services and as well as the other services in this field. Now with this success or with this impetus which he got out of his enthusiasm, he has also developed now a law school, and that's now he has developed into a Rajasthali Law School. Law school is also aimed to have a very good nice education, and that too in the integrated form, 5 years course and something of the same sort. Now with this also effort, he is also trying to develop good good technique to have legal knowledge. Now so far one becomes a good lawyer or a good judicial officer is required to be achieved by good education. Until unless a person have a nice education in law, he cannot be developing a skill of a good advocacy, or he cannot be a good judge. Now, good judge especially requires more than his aptitude for his bread earning. Bread earning cannot be just a motive to have a judicial services. Judicial services certainly needs some kind of interest, some kind of societal idea, and the law which has to be applied for particular situation. It's not the law in absurd has to be applied. That's what Justice Krishna also said, that when a law has to be applied, it has to have some social kind of justice. That's how concept of social justice system also developed. So what Mr. M.K. Singh has developed, a good lawyer or good judges, good judicial officers, is his effort, and which is seen from his institute, which he has developed initially for rather coaching the persons for competing with the judicial services. Now his law school is certainly aimed, with his enthusiasm and with his interest and devotion to the law. He also being a lawyer, he wanted to have good kind of education in the law as well, which can be at par with the other institutes. Now other institutes, there are certain good institutes or institutes which are getting name and fame. But be that as it may, what is essentially to be seen is what Mr. M.K. Singh is putting forth is his own interest in it. Now a person who develops a thing which he is putting interest in it has to have a different kind of shape. Now he puts his labor to shape up that particular educational thing. He is also shaping up when his services comes to the aspect that if somebody completes his law degree, 5 years course, or a similar course, a diploma or something like that, whatever the complete detail can be had from him. So ultimately it aims to impart education, and education relating to particular field. So if at all, if some person attains some good education, attains law knowledge, now ultimately law has to be used during the time of advocacy or at the time of judicial services. At both that point of time, what is essentially needed is a good kind of concept. Good concept only we had when we have good kind of educational system. Good educational system needs experience as well, besides the just rather knowledge from the books or the bare acts. Bare acts may be necessary, but how facts or how facts are mixed with the law, or how facts in a particular societal setup is required to be considered either by an advocate or by a judge. That's the main objective of Mr. M.K. Singh, who is trying to attain it. Now in order to inculcate the quality of an advocate, judges and such professional courses which is at his steps and which he is intending to start, is only aiming for the purpose of developing a quality act on this. Now quality, it may not be necessarily that one person who attains such informations or knowledge has to impart those things and to take it to the ultimate conclusion. Now when this comes to the field of advocacy, he or the person who attains this knowledge, how he is applying at the time of using this in a case law in the court of law. Now when he succeeds in bringing a mixture or bringing homogeneous mixture of the law and the facts and putting it in a manner it is required to be put, so that is the advocacy, that's the lawyer's wit, or that's the court craft which we call it in a lawyer's wisdom, what is essentially and immediately required to be and complied with when judges ask or when the opposite side puts. So this is the part of advocacy, and when a successful lawyer, things are done in a manner which attains certainly a result, then he becomes a successful lawyer. But for becoming successful lawyer, a fact, the law and its presentation all are equally to be considered. Similarly, for becoming a good judge, it's not necessarily that he gives a particular judgment in a particular rather high flying or a publicized case, he becomes famous. No. There are cases wherein even earlier times like Justice Krishna Iyer, Justice Gajendra Gadkar, Justice Desai, these were the judges, honorable judges of Supreme Court who developed a new thing altogether. Now, a new thing, what was that? Public interest litigation. It's not that a lawyer develops a thing, but judges also develop the things. And who are those judges? Who have complete and very near rather relationship with the society and touch to the society. If one feels pain in the society to be of his own pain, then naturally he develops. Ultimately, the time or the era of public interest litigation or the approach of a societal setup came. And that is how Mr. M.K. Sim is aiming to have it a course or an education in law which would ultimately try to achieve the same. Whether it's a good lawyer, good judicial officer, or a person who even these days, what is coming up is one person who takes up the course of 5 years, he thinks that he should be getting a thing like some good kind of package or something rather monetary attraction. That should not be the criteria for having a kind of education which is tried to be imparted in law course. A person who is aiming to become a good lawyer or a good judge or a good rather service rendering rather agency, then he must aim to have a better prospect of the law, better prospect of using the law to the society, or to, if we say so, to oneself. Ultimately, the concept of law was used that this was a noble profession, this was never considered to be a bread earning. But now as it is being compared with other professional courses, so naturally that part also comes. And necessarily, if that is the incentive for a good professional, then lawyers can also achieve it, and the judges equally, they will be also applying to it. That is all. Thanks a lot.